Hello and welcome to Life Harmony Talk. My name is Jesmine Onyeukwu, also known as the Life Harmonist, and I'm so excited to have with me an incredible guest on the show today. So for those of you joining for the first time, the Life Harmony Talk is a series of fireside chats where I bring incredible leaders and I extract from them insights on how to live and lead in the most harmonious and sustainable ways. So the show's objective is to inspire leaders to be very harmonious in their leadership with themselves and how they lead in the workplace and how they're contributing to making our world a more harmonious place. I am happy to have you on the show today. Thank you for tuning in. Please feel free to share this program with your friends. If you know any business leaders in your community, in your space, do not hesitate to share the Life Harmony Talk with them. I have with me Kemi right here in the studio. And Kemi is a leadership expert all the way from Nigeria. She's an author and management consultant. For close to a decade, she has been helping businesses and professionals across the world bridge the leadership gaps and develop the right competence for their leadership roles. Kemi has successfully worked with over 80 organizations and over 3,000 executives. Kemi, okay, we'll talk about that. It helps them build smart, visionary, and adaptive leadership skills to their current jobs so that they're more effective. And she also helps them transition into higher positions seamlessly. Kemi is a coach. She provides layers of values to small business owners to help them develop new skills so that they can capitalize on their strength, overcome their weaknesses, expand their comfort zone, improve their thinking patterns, eliminate limiting beliefs, clarify their goals and priorities, develop empowering habits and rituals, strengthen their core values, improve their ability to learn from mistakes and failure, and to potentially help them unlock their life's purpose, set goals, and hold them accountable. You see why I needed to have Kemi on the show today, because she's going to help us do a lot when it comes to our leadership. Kemi's goal is to raise effective leaders. We share that in common, and to equip leaders to develop the right technology-driven skills so that they can effectively perform in their jobs and businesses. Whoa! I feel so privileged to sit in a room with you because I'm going to so brainstorm with you and pick your brains today. Thank you for coming in here today, Kemi. Tell us how your day has been so far.
Well, my day has been really hectic, because I have a training tomorrow, a workshop, and of course, there's a lot of preparation that just has to go on. So for some reason, I've been on my system, and I think my vision is almost kind of blurry at this time. But then it's been a great day. It's been productive. I've been able to achieve about 90% of what I set out to achieve today, which is great. I look forward to rounding up, after this session, but really amazing day so far.
90% of your to-do list, you are an excellent leader. Like 90% is excellent. Let's just give you some round of applause there. So you've already started inspiring me. We're going to talk a lot today about leadership from your lens. I read your book. I haven't totally finished the book, but I've gone to the depths of the book, and I'm so fired up already. So you talk a lot about leadership in the book. Before we go into the questions, I want to share how I met this great woman. I build networks and I connect on LinkedIn, and I was just on LinkedIn one day, and this woman popped on my timeline, and I saw keywords, leadership, effectiveness. I'm like, who is this? So I read through the post, and I hit the follow button straight up. I didn't think about it. I knew I had to be connected to you. So that's how we met on LinkedIn. And I love that you embody leadership. So my first question for you today is, what is the importance? Well, how important is it for us to be personal leaders? Because you talk about leadership from the home. So how is it important for us to talk about, how important is personal leadership in overall leadership?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And I think that's a very great question to start with. Now, a lot of times when we talk about leadership, there's this misconception about what leadership is all about. So you're thinking it's about directing people, organizing people, sharing a vision, being able to, rally people around a particular goal or objective and vision. But then it's way beyond that. That's why you have that. A lot of people have the vision, but then they really fail when it has to do with the discharge of their duties. And that's because leadership starts with you. So if you cannot lead yourself, you have no business leading other people. And one thing I always love to say, when I speak with leaders is, you cannot become great at what you do unless you become great at who you are. So which means that the hallmark of effective leadership starts with you. Okay, so looking at how are you able to organize your day, for example, how are you able to manage your emotions, how are you able to manage relationships, how are you able to control your impulses. It starts with that. So if you cannot control how you feel at a particular point, if you let go of your anger because you cannot control your emotional impulses, or you choose to stay in bed all day because you don't feel like working, or you just don't know how to manage relationships, then you are going to struggle with leadership. So before you can go on to become this great CEO, this great parent, it first starts with you. And so for me, the essence of leadership is to first demystify the concept of leadership for leaders, okay? So that we're not just thinking about leadership and we're thinking of the second person, we're thinking of the third person, we're thinking of our teams, we're thinking of our kids, we're thinking of the nation. We first have to think about ourselves, okay? And then when we talk about leadership also, there's this idea that, it's about vision. Of course, it's about vision, but then at the crux of that is character, okay? So what kind of person are you? What kind of habits have you formed? What kind of difference do you bring to the world? And questions around that. Well, what kind of energy do you bring to others? Those are the kind of questions that you want to start asking yourself as a leader. And then when you're able to perfect, or, you're able to keep growing in that aspect of self, then other areas of your life can grow. So I am for ensuring that we have leaders who first start with self, but then understand that there should be great level of consistency around their leadership. So you don't just show up as a great leader at work, but then you're also a great leader at home. You're a great parent, you're a great brother, you're a great sibling, who is able to lead with empathy, who is able to lead with clarity, who is able to lead with confidence, who is able to lead with the thought of community. So there's a lot more around leadership than just, bossing people around or being able to achieve your corporate goals or being at the helm of affairs. It's absolutely more than a position. It's way much more than a condition or a situation. It's a choice that you make, and that choice has to begin with you.
Kemi, you speak my language so much. I'm wondering, how does she know my heart? So you're using words that I love to use every day: confidence, clarity, character, capacity, potential.
Yeah.
These are words that resonate with me. You are such a vibe, and you are my vibe. So thank you so much. Yeah, we're vibing right, So you said, I read in the Leadership Guardian that we generally have a wrong persona of leadership. Many of us carry this: I need to be, I want to grow into a leader. So when you talk to somebody, they're like, okay, hopefully I can be a leader someday. The leader is a guy who wears a black suit and carries a nice briefcase and walks in with so much air around him. That's the persona of leadership that we have. But what you're saying is, you are a leader. You grow in your capacity of leadership. Everybody can be a leader. So what is the importance of inculcating leadership into young children? If you're saying leadership is what everybody must know to do, how do we inculcate this skill or the habit or the attitude of true leadership, not a position centered leadership, but true leadership in our young children? What do we need to do as parents, as a society, to do this work?
All right. So thank you very much for that. And I love the way you have spoken about some of the demystification when it comes to the subject of leadership. So it's not just about a position. But then John Maxwell says this, right? That the true essence of leadership is not just to produce more followers, it's actually to raise more leaders. And for us to have a future that we can genuinely be proud of, then we have to have a mechanism in place to raise leaders, and not just any kind of leaders that can actually take us into the future. So I say that our current world is in crisis. I call it an impending crisis. And then when we talk about crisis, people are thinking about, oh yeah, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Absolutely, we are in the middle of a pandemic. But then with the pandemic, we can take some precautionary measures, we can wear nose masks, we can, do social distancing and quite a lot of that. But then the impending crisis I talk about is an impending crisis of deficient leadership, right? And where does this take us? It takes us into having more broken homes, having faulty, unhappy kids that are raised by parents who do not have clarity about leadership, who are not intentional about leadership, who do not understand the place of their roles and their responsibilities as parents. It also takes us to the workplace where we have leaders who will do anything to get ahead, who don't care about feelings, who don't care about the workforce, who don't care about ethics, all they just care about is what they call secure the bag. It would also take us to nations that are broken because we have leaders whose ego are bigger than the agenda of effective governance or leadership when we even look at the national scene. So if we do not want that cycle to continue, then it is important that we become intentional about raising leaders who embody the true essence of leadership. And when we talk about being able to embody the true essence of leadership, they say that people cannot give what they don't have. So if, I haven't been able to exhibit great leadership skills, for example, in front of my children, what they see are my lies, what they see are inconsistencies, then it will be very difficult to have children who are being raised to be effective leaders. So if we want to have that mechanism in place where we're able to raise leaders for the future, we're able to raise a young generation that it's not misguided, in the ephemeria of all the things happening in the world, then we have to be intentional. And then we need to understand that effective parenting starts with you as a parent. So when we talk about raising children, a lot of parents are thinking, oh yeah, I have to be able to guide my child, I have to be able to instruct my child, but then it goes way beyond that. What kind of examples are you setting for your child? Even as a parent, do you have any level of clarity as it has to do with who you are, right? Yogi Berra says this. He says, if you don't know where you are headed, you're going to wind up somewhere else. So if you don't know the kind of person that you are, if you don't know what your values are as a parent, you do not know what your guiding principles are, then you're going to end, or you're going to wind up somewhere else, which means that you're also going to raise children who are going to wind up somewhere else because they lack clarity on who they are, because they have been raised by someone who also lacks clarity. So you see just how all of this keep going on and on. So yes, we need to be able to raise children with clarity. We need to be able to raise children with character. But then, like I said, you cannot give what you don't have. So we need parents who, are grounded in the essence of character, who do not just see their roles as parents, as a transactional role. It's way beyond you being able to have sperm, you being able to carry, a baby, and then you have this baby, but then you have zero character. There's nothing you're really giving to them. What you can give to children in this generation to take them through to the future is not just a hefty bank account. You need to help them remain grounded in character. That way they're able to discover who they are and remain grounded, along these principles that you have raised them in. It's also important that you are able to raise kids, with a level of competence. Now, I understand that when you have kids, or when you get married, or when you decide to be a parent, and there's no manual, so nobody goes and comes and says, yes, I got the manual of right? Because you just have to deal with quite a couple of issues, okay? And then you have to deal with yourself. You have to deal with your evolving self. And that's quite a lot to deal with. But then it is absolutely irresponsible for you as a parent to think that, you know, the moment you have kids, somehow you just go along with the flow and then they start to raise themselves somehow. No, you have to develop, you know, certain parenting skills that can position you for effective parenting. You know, you went to school for you to get your degree. You had to do certain things, right? So you had to study hard, you had to write exams, you had to do projects and quite a couple of things. It did not happen by accident. It did not happen just because you wished, you know, to have a degree. It happened because you developed some level of competence in that area to help you, you know, be able to go along and excel in that field. So the same thing with parenting. We need parents, you know, with competence. We need parents who you know, are eager to learn and develop who they are, you know, who are willing to develop who are willing to develop themselves pretty much, if I can put it that way. We also need parents who are able to connect with their children. You know, connection is key. I said it's way beyond transactional parenting. If you cannot connect with your kids, you can't understand how they feel at certain points in time. You can't understand what they are going through. You cannot relate with it. And this goes way beyond, this is how I was raised. You know, I was raised in the 1980s, you know, and I don't understand children of this generation. They just want everything and there's no way you can satisfy them. No. Understand that at the core of your child or whoever is a personality, right? And you have to be able to get right down into understanding who this human being is. What do they respond to? What is their communication language? You know, what's their love language? You know, what are their patterns? What's their behavior? No two individuals are the same. No two children are the same. So parents have to, you know, understand that the requirement for raising children, you know, it's totally different based on the child that you're dealing with. And so that is important. It's also important to ensure that you're able to communicate with your child. And by communication, it goes way beyond, you know, just the mundane things like asking, so how you doing? How's your day been? No, it goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond, you know, just the regular stuff that we do. How are you able to really understand your child and communicate in a language where you guys are able to build a relationship, right? Relationship. You need to have relationship with your kids. That way, they say that influence is the currency for leadership. So you cannot have influence when you cannot communicate. So if you want to be able to communicate with your kids, you know, and build that relationship with them, you have to invest in you know, great communication skills. You have to be a great listener. You have to be able to read their body cues, for example. You have to be able to hear even when they're not speaking, right? So there's a lot more I can say, Jesmine. I'm going to stop on that. But then I want people to understand that what it will take us to raise leaders for the next generation is totally different from what it took to raise leaders in this generation. Times have changed, you know, systems have changed, the world has changed, and so much too.
Kemi, I know you could go on, and I could listen on and on because it's just an endless flow of wisdom. Now, in your book, you talked about all of us being responsible for the nation. So there's the three facets of leadership you say everybody should have: the home, nation, and workplace. Now, how do we incorporate personal leadership into workplace? You said something that struck me about the ego-based leadership. You know, somebody said scientists went out of space. They went out of space, and looking at the Earth from outer space, the Earth is just one tiny speck in all of the universe. Yet the ego of one man inside that Earth is bigger than the entire universe. You know, so how do we help leaders truly develop character? And I'm saying this because I'm drawn to bringing in the political struggles we have, not just because you and I share something in common. We're from Nigeria. But Nigeria has a leadership crisis, no doubt. It's not just Nigeria. We globally have a crisis of leadership. The United States of America just came out from one struggle of, transitioning from one leadership to the other. And we saw the character issue with the leadership that was there in the United States. We've seen character issues with our leadership.
Yeah.
What do you say to leaders who are taking the position to build nations on character development? What do you say to them on character development? Because that is a bedrock for everything. If you do not have your values, your principles, if you don't know what you stand for, if you can't understand what common good is and how commonwealth is not your personal wealth, how you have to cater, how you are in a position to nurture others. It's a privilege, not a right. Leadership is a privilege. It's not something you abuse. So how do you speak to leaders? Because you never know, you and I could be in a position to lead a nation tomorrow. So how do you speak to that? And speak to also what I've heard, that our leaders are a reflection of us. So if the collective United States elected a leader, or the collective Nigeria elected a leader, that means we are electing people that reflect us. And realistically speaking, I don't think the leadership in Nigeria reflects me. So what do you say to those of us who are entrusting leaders with our votes, who are giving them a vote of trust and confidence? What do you say to us and also to them who occupy the position?
Okay, so I think I'll take it two ways then, right? And then I will start with the responsibility on the part of the citizens, okay? Because I say that we are, as a whole, globally experiencing leadership deficit like never before, right? And gone were the days where off the tip of your fingers you could name great leaders without even blinking an eye. But now you have to think and put them through certain tests to be sure that they still stand, to be able to say, oh, this person is a great leader. But then there is a responsibility on citizens. And, in my book, The Leadership Guardian, I talk about citizen leadership, to help people get to that point of understanding that, we cannot just all throw it on the shoulders of the government and say, some people are there, we're going to wait for another 4 years, and then when they're off, we can come out again and see who else is there. It's not going to change anything, right? Because if we really want to talk about change, as a whole, when we talk about the political structures and in nations, it's important that we get ourselves really entrenched in the system that produces these leaders. Because come to think of it, if all you have is to choose between A and B, then of course probably you just choose one and go. But then if you are in the process of actually electing what makes up A and then what makes up B, then you have more control. So I think it's important that citizens of nations start becoming more involved in politics from the grassroots. Now, it's also important that citizens of nations, and I talk from the pain of being just seeing the things happening in my country, for example, which really breaks my heart, that we have a nation of quite a couple of intellectuals, but then you see the quality of people who really stand up to politics and are the ones that become the face of the nation. It's quite disheartening. But then nothing will change if the good men sit in the comfort of their homes, just run their businesses and let things go by. So it's important that we all start taking responsibility, right? To be the change that we want. It's also important that when we talk about citizenship leadership, we also get to that point where we spur people within the nation to start leading from where they are, right? So I can, for example, go to a school in my local community and volunteer to start training children free of charge on, you know, the essence of effective leadership. That way, I am positioning them for effective leadership in the future. So it will not be alien to them to, you know, start developing what their values are from a very young age. I think because some of these things we do not really find in curriculums here and there, we leave it, you know, we're not taught about some of these things, we're not taught about the implication of some of, you know, this is, we don't even like, so I grew up, I went to school, but then the first time I had about emotional intelligence, I was almost out of uni, right? The first time I'm hearing about values was when I was almost out of secondary school, and you know, and to a great extent, it was my principal then who would say a good name is better than silver and gold, you know, and just tell us things like that that just helped us. We just shape and realign ourselves to the areas of values and things like that. So it's important that people within countries, citizens, start taking responsibility for the future. You can start right from where you are, right? You don't have to be the local government council chairman, as we call it here. You don't have to be a councillor somewhere. You don't have to be the mayor for you to rise up to the responsibility of leadership. In my book, I talk about the leadership guardian, and the leadership guardian is someone who rises up to the responsibility of leadership, whether someone is watching or someone is not watching. The leadership guardian is someone, you know, who understands the essence of true leadership and takes on that responsibility to be the change that they want to see. So it's important that we citizens start seeing ourselves as stop seeing ourselves as helpless individuals, okay, but rather start seeing ourselves for the power that we really own up to. In my country, there was a riot or a protest, you know, over NSAS movement. There was this NSAS movement where people came out to protest against police brutality. And for once, you actually did see a multitude of people come together, you know, without any division in religion, in ethnicity, and then they were able to do so much, right? Speak up with one voice and try to effect change as much as possible. So it's important that citizens start seeing just how powerful they are and start stepping into leadership. Now to the other part of it, which is about those in power. Now, position, you know, of leadership is not a license for oppression, okay? It's not a license to give you superior, to give you the superior advantage over the people that you govern. You were either elected or you were, you know, or appointed to a particular position. Whatever position that you have been appointed or elected to is an opportunity to serve, not to inflict pain, not to come with, you know, an ego that is bigger than life. It's not about you. It's about the service that you should bring to people. It's about the ease, it's about the comfort, it's about the responsibility that lies on your shoulders. So it is important that you start thinking about the people and not just about you. It's not just about what you want to get. Now think of it, the leaders that you know, have long been gone. We're talking about leaders like JFK, we're talking about leaders like Nelson Mandela, we're talking about Gandhi. You know, they've long been gone, but then I would always refer to them. Why? Because there's certain characteristics about them that the world cannot forget. I remember about the time when Nelson Mandela was ill, you know, and anytime you had any news out of South Africa, you're almost panicking, you know, you just don't want to hear that news that he's gone. You know, and why was there so much agitation? I think somewhere in the minds of a lot of people, you know, it was, so if Nelson Mandela goes, who else can we look up to? It shouldn't be that way. It should be about responsibility. It should be about duty. It should be about empathy. It should be, you know, about the translation of a vision or a mission that is bigger than you. And I think that's where political leaders have to be. That's where national leaders have to be. Wherever you are, in whatever ministry, whatever parastatus in which you are serving, whatever level of government, it is a duty to serve, and you will be totally irresponsible if you do otherwise.
Wow. Kemi, you said something about people being appointed or elected into positions without being equipped for those positions. So leadership is not essentially a position. It is a practice. And you said if we can start encouraging young people to take on leadership abilities or leadership roles, whether it's just coordinating a small group of people, getting on a project and developing and making sure they run the project, establish the principles and the procedure to make sure that just little ways to get people to start to practice leadership. So when they stumble upon a position to lead, they're not at sea, they're not confused. Because what I say to people is the fact that we have bad leaders isn't because they want to be bad leaders. It's because they don't know any other way to lead. I don't see somebody who knows to do good and who has been equipped, knows to do good, knows the outcomes of doing good, and chooses to just be crappy. I don't know that person, or else they're insane, right? If they have their sanity, they must want to be reflective of the good that they know and they've embodied. So you made a good point. So I wanted to touch on religion. We live in a very, you and I come from Nigeria. Nigeria is a very religious place. We have a lot of religious factions and groups. But I've come to realize that many religious leaders do not fully understand the role they play in nation building, in household leadership, in personal development. So I logged onto a religious setting a couple of months ago, and the conversation there, I think it was a women empowerment religious setting, and the conversation there was about how women dress, whether they should wear, hair wigs, whether they should wear, and I was wondering where the concept of developing character should come, where the concept of strengthening the person in their emotional well-being. There's a concept of religious narcissism. I've experienced it. Many people in religious settings who occupy religious positions of leadership, they don't have a good psychological upbringing. They don't have a good psychological conditioning. Some of them are ego-driven. They inflict, in religious settings, they inflict pain. They enslave their followers. So I want you to talk about the importance of religion in developing character, in building nation builders, in creating an environment that allows us all to thrive and live in harmony.
All right, thank you very much for that. So I think a lot of who we are as human beings is about finding that sense of purpose, that sense of fulfillment, looking for connection with that higher being, and being able to be in that place where you are striving for that connection and all of that. But then I think beyond just clipping it down to religious practice, I think it's important that people start, focusing on the core essence of religion itself, which is about spirituality, right? Which is about building that sense of connection with God. Now, the moment you take your eyes off God and you take your eyes on people, it becomes a cult. Okay, so I remember having a conversation with a religious leader who put up something online, and I had to express my resentment towards the comment. And this particular person came for me, okay? He came for me. And of course, I could see through the messages and the attack around, what right do you have to question me? I'm chosen by God. You don't have any right to question me. And, I think a lot of people may get cowed, to that hero worship, not my anointed. And, without that, I respect everything about religion. I'm a respecter of people's religion and all of that, but then I do not subscribe to worshiping individuals in the name of religion. I think that a lot of people have abused the essence of religion for their own personal gain, and a lot of focus is taken out of the relationship with God to trying to serve or please a particular doctrine or belong to a particular cycle, and then in the process, people are getting to lose themselves. Now, what religion should bring to people, is that sense of fulfillment, that connection with God, where we actually raise people or develop people to that place of, awareness of the individual connection that they can have with God. Okay, the moment Jesus Christ died, and then that veil was torn from head to bottom for those who are Christians, that separation was totally taken away. So it's important that religious leaders know their place, right? They should be more involved in raising whole individuals. They should be more involved in not just filling their pockets or filling the collection buckets. They should be more interested in filling the souls of people with the word of God, with the possibility of God, with the message, the good news of God. It shouldn't be about them. It should be about God. So I think to a great extent, a lot of religious leaders have failed in that aspect. And going from, because there's a thin line between religion and manipulation sometimes, right? Where people now, do not even know the difference. They don't even know when they become exactly the people or the ideologies that they have castigated for so long. So it's important that religious leaders really step into that place of, communion with God. For those who have lost their path or they have lost their ways because of materialism or what some other people are doing, the love for this fast and furious life, and just want to be at the center of this blink, I say this blinking lifestyle. They should trace their paths and trace their way back to God, and turn back to really what the apostles were doing, right? The apostles were winning souls for Christ. The apostles focused on character building. They focused on building from the inside, right? It wasn't just about prosperity. It wasn't just about doom. No, it was really about building character. And that's when you look at the story of, Paul, for example, even in pain, he had that very deep conviction, of the power of Jesus Christ. He had that very deep conviction about the power of God. I'm not sure if there are many men of God who will or who can go through 1/100 of what Paul had to go through. So am I saying you shouldn't serve God, in comfort? Absolutely not. But I'm saying that that should not be the focus, and you shouldn't, because of the fast and furious lifestyle you want to live, also lead people away from Christ. The focus should be on Christ. The focus should be on God. The focus, should remain on God, and that's exactly what religious leaders should do. So rather than being the third party in the relationship with God, let people communicate, show them the way, show them what they need to do, and stop the messages that manipulate people into religious slavery.
You said a lot, Kemi. So I love the concept of third party, or them making themselves a link. There's no linkage. We don't need a link. There's a direct access, like you said, to God. Religion should be a guide. So I saw somebody was a religious leader who said, when true religious leaders know to differentiate truth from tradition, then they would be better equipped to lead. So truth is God-centered. Truth is God-centered. Tradition is human-centered. It's based on what humans think, their ideologies, their styles and principles. But the truth doesn't change. It's who God is. He's love. He's good. He's a creator. He loves fellowship. He loves to nurture. And if you don't see those things in religion, it means it's not centered around God. So it's easy for people to lose their self-will. And I say, God gave you the free will to make choices. Why should a religious system take away the self-will that God gave you from you? You know, so I love when you said there's a thin line between religious leadership and manipulative leadership. And it's you and I's responsibility to know when a religious leadership is manipulating, when they are being the center of the relationship rather than being a guide. They want to make themselves the hero rather than be the guide. You're not a hero.
Absolutely, you know? Absolutely. But you know what? We emotions, because I think quite a lot of these guys who have turned on the other side of religion actually go into the dark side of emotional mastery. You know, so they understand that thin line between, you know, having people committed and then turning them over and being able to manipulate them. So sometimes because of a low level of self-awareness, you know, certain beliefs that people have held on to, you know, the place of nurture in the life of an individual, some people honestly do not know when they cross to the other side. And then, you know, you're trying to deal with them with logic and they're telling you, no, can't you see, right? And quite a couple of things. So I think it's important for us to just ensure that we're helping people become more self-aware, you know, and talking about the gospel in a way that is non-threatening to people. The gospel of God is good news. You know, it brings succor, it brings comfort. You know, so it's important that we disseminate the same message in that light. You know, not making, oh yes, if we don't do this, you know, this is going to happen. You know, and start thinking of ways to turn around God's word just for the pleasure of man. So self-awareness.
Absolutely, Kemi. The simple objective of the gospel, based on what Christ did while he walked on earth, was to illuminate. That's what the disciples, the apostles did. They were opening the eyes of people to who they really are and who God really is. If your religious system is not opening your eyes more and more to the awesomeness of God and the incredible design of the human spirit and the human being, then it is disadvantaging you, and you are responsible for yourself and those around you. I come with tough love. So I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for my spouse, my friends. You and I, we must all take that position of responsibility, accountability, and intentionality. Kemi, I could talk with you for hours on end. Oh my goodness. We just have to come to a close. I could just keep going on and on. So what are 2 sticky notes, based on all that we shared today, 2 things you want to stick with the audience as they go about their leadership, developing their leadership capacity?
Okay, the first thing would be this. I said this earlier, that you cannot be great at what you do unless you become great at who you are. So work on developing yourself, work on becoming a better you. It definitely does start with you. And the second thing I want to say is this, right? The essence of leadership is not for you to be great in one area of your life and then you struggle so badly in the area of your life. In fact, when you see that there's a level of disparity between who you are as a leader, say at home and at work, then you know that there's something wrong somewhere. So as a leader who is on this journey of self-awareness, if you know that you have tried, like honestly, you have tried, you have read books, you have attended seminars, and then you're not able to achieve the level of results that you want or the progress that you want in your life, please seek help. You know, seek help from a coach, seek help from a therapist. Just find out what is happening somewhere, someone who can just help you unlock that level, you know, to be able to perform at an optimum level. So yeah, I think I'll leave with those 2 sticky notes.
Powerful 2 sticky notes, very powerful. So Kemi, there's something I do with leaders who come on the Life Harmony Talk with me. I get them to take the leadership quiz and I get them to take the Harmonious Leader Pledge.
Okay.
So let's do the Harmonious Leader quiz. I ask you a couple of questions and you answer in few words.
Okay.
As few as possible.
Let's do.
What does a sustainable leadership mean to you in 4 words?
Yeah, sustainable leadership is leadership that is consistent, you know, and that has no switch. So sustainable leadership takes you into the future, you know, without robbing you of the essence of nature.
Woohoo! I love the quotable quote. I'm going to grab that. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is to create a sense of urgency with any leader who catches this program. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for leaders to embrace a harmonious lifestyle?
Above 10.
Above 10. I love that. So urgent. So there's a sense of urgency here. If you're catching this, please get on board, develop yourself, become more self-aware, lead at home in incredible ways, be the example that your children need, and go out there in the workplace and in the nation and just be exceptional. So let's do the Harmonious Leader Pledge. Okay. So you tell me, my name is, and I believe in harmonious leadership because, so my name is, you say your name, I believe in harmonious leadership because XYZ.
Okay. All right. So my name is Kemi Ogunkoya, and I believe in harmonious leadership because it gives you a level of balance and it helps you achieve great level of fulfillment.
Whoa, thank you so much for that, Kemi. Thank you for nudging our listeners and for giving them all the inspiration and the prompts that they need to get into the place of their best selves. So before we sign off, tell our listeners and followers how to connect with you, because you only shed a tip of the iceberg of the wisdom that you carry, and they need to connect. They need to draw more from this well. So how can they connect?
All right. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Kemi Ogunkoya on LinkedIn, Instagram, Kemi.Ogunkoya. Facebook, you find me as Kemi Ogunkoya, and also on Twitter. If you want to send me a personal message, you can send that through hello@KemiOgunkoya.com.
Kemi, tell them about the Leadership Guardian, where to get it.
I should.
You should.
So yeah, I wrote a book. It's called The Leadership Guardian, How to Develop Visionary Leadership at Home, at Work, and in Nations. And it is an absolutely phenomenal book to raise great leadership across every sphere of life. We've had great reviews from those who have read The Leadership Guardian, and I am really blessed. I'm honored to be able to preach this gospel of consistent leadership across every sphere of life. We're talking about the blueprint of leadership. So the Leadership Guardian is not just about theories. In fact, somebody calls it, she calls it a leadership lifestyle compendium, right? And I think that really summarizes what the book is all about. So if you are at that point where, you have to develop your leadership skills, you should absolutely get the Leadership Guardian. And to get the Leadership Guardian, please visit www.theleadershipguardian.com. And the book is also available on Amazon worldwide. And then you can also find it, on other stores, Apple and, Smashworld.
Let me just drop my review here. If you need a shift in the way you think as a leader, get Kemi's book. You need to keep shifting yourself. Evolution is a consistent process for every leader. So you never get to the place where you say, I'm sorted, I figured it out. Get Kemi's book and evolve a little further. And I'm just so excited to have Kemi here. And please, if you know any leaders out there, to those of you, my listeners, who you think we should feature on the Life Harmony Talk, please feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email at Jesmine@jesuscharm.com. And if you're a leader, you have great insights you want to share with all the leaders in the world through this platform, please, I would love to hear from you as well. So feel free to connect with me across social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Jesmine Onyeukwu. If you type the Life Harmonist, I will definitely pop up. And I can't wait to connect more with you and hear from you. Thank you for joining us on this one. See you on the next one and have a great day.
All right.